So in this week's Creative Confidence Catch Up, I'm going to be speaking with Lala. So Lala, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi. I'm Lala and I'm an artist and I also live out in the desert with all my dogs and some animals. And yeah, I just living off the grid and making art and trying to, do cool things with life, I guess.
Yeah, that's so cool. No, that's a really great introduction. Like, because I remember when I started seeing your artworks and things on socials, and basically that's, I suppose, how our conversation started, wasn't it? Like that idea of the love for art and things like that. But I really was always interested in your idea of like the whole weaving process, etc. But my first question to you today is, what made you want to kind of live out in the wild in the first place? And how did that affect your confidence when you first actually took the chance to do that?
I don't really know exactly where the idea came from, but I'd always wanted to live like this. Just probably from a young age, I've had a connection to nature, and before I um ended up in New York City, I had actually planned to move to North Carolina and kind of live this life. I just didn't really know exactly where I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to garden and produce my own food. I guess a lot of the drive for living in nature was, yeah, to provide for myself, and to not have such like a reliance on the government for my food and just have like cleaner, healthier environments to live in. So that's
Mhm.
kind of where the idea probably came from. And then, I took a lot of like little detours to get there. And then when I did, yeah, it was a lot different than I could ever expect. And I definitely picked a place that was more wild than I'd ever been in and more
Uh-huh.
challenging. I never lived in a desert or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I fell into it and it probably, yeah, boosted my confidence for sure. I've had a lot of mistakes and things happen that were difficult to get through, but at this point in life I do feel like I can pretty much do anything. So my confidence is up for sure.
Yeah, honestly, like just by being in the wild, I think on some of the videos that you show where it's like, oh, there's like bears out there, this like that. I'm thinking, whoa, this is amazing. Like, how can you even think of like living out there with all these like bears and stuff? And for me, I'd be like, oh no, I don't know how I'd cope with it. But that is just not a setback in itself, but something you've got to be quite resilient to if it's happening all the time and they're just wandering around.
Yeah, definitely a resilience, but also like an acceptance. Like I
Hmm.
don't live
Oh
with
yeah.
brown bears or grizzly bears or anything, but and I guess mountain lions are dangerous, but I just don't feel threatened by any of the animals. I
Oh,
kind of
wow.
believe that we share a sentience with animals, and so our energy that we put out into the environment that we live in can definitely I think affect how they treat us back. So I think I've been welcomed in this environment by them.
That's brilliant. No, that's brilliant. So, is there any sort of advantages about living like this in the wild then, do you think, or something that you've really gained from it?
I think the advantage is just like the peace. I definitely suffered from extreme anxiety, especially in cities,
Mm.
just panic attacks every day and managing my anxiety with like unhealthy coping mechanisms. So I think that like having this place, every time I come back to it, I feel a sense of peace and calm. And it's definitely the place that I feel safest,
Mhm.
which is may seem crazy to some people because maybe they don't feel safe in like wide open spaces. But for
Mhm.
me, it probably took 3 nights of sleeping out here. And then I knew like I was safe and I was protected. And so I think that the advantage is just like being able to ground yourself in nature constantly and
Mhm.
come back to kind of like the way that humans did live in peace with nature. I think it just helps me manage life in general like much better.
Mm. And I totally love how like you were talking about then about obviously in some busy places, it can be like really sort of, yeah, you can get anxiety and things. Like, I don't like London, obviously here in the UK, for that exact reason, where it's too busy and like too many people dashing around, and I'm like, no, like you'll still get to the same place. But whereas up where I live, but I'm not in the north as such, but like in the Midlands, it's a whole lot slower paced. It's quite nice. But I suppose with that, like,
Yeah.
I really like how you kind of talk about how that can actually affect, I suppose, confidence or just the feeling in yourself, and the wellness aspect. In relation to that, then, obviously we've been talking about your retreat, haven't we? Which I'm really excited about you sharing today. So, in relation to yourself and the experiences that you've been through with managing, I suppose, social anxiety in being in cities, and then coming into this sort of realm, what will people kind of expect on this retreat that you're going to be proposing?
Well, that's a really good question because that leads right into what my end goal is, especially for this first retreat, is just to share a condensed version of what I went through and how that did help me, like to build confidence and to build a reliance on myself and to, yeah, manage some of the things in life that were weighing me down in a way that I could then like soar. And
Mhm.
so the key concepts of this first retreat, and I think the retreats will probably grow and change as time goes on, but this first one is really about learning how to trust yourself, provide for yourself, and then protect yourself. And yeah, I think that what people can expect is, I don't know, just being kind of like forced into an uncomfortable situation,
Mhm.
but learning to find certain tools to work through it. So a lot of like breath work and other tools that I've developed and used throughout the years. I want to pass those along. Um, Other things are just like learning how to push your body in ways that maybe feel uncomfortable, or learning to work through certain things that you maybe haven't worked through, but
Mhm.
learning to face those things and working through them, and then having that this space here to be able to do that, because it is this space, this valley is just so sacred and so magical that like it's the perfect space to kind of let go and be yourself and be able to face some of those things.
That's great. And also, when you were chatting about it initially, just the other week on your stories, I heard that you said you maybe probably start out small. And I quite like that,
Yeah,
having a small group of people, because I suppose if one person says, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable with this, or I've been in this position, or this has happened to me, those people will start to feel a bit more like they are being heard, maybe.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that like it's so important to think about the energy that's spent on the retreat, in terms of like what the energy I'm spending and the energy that the people who are coming are spending. So having a large group, I just think will be quite overwhelming for not only me but other people.
Mm.
And I definitely want people to feel comfortable and feel like they are being heard and seen and develop community through the retreat. So starting on a smaller scale, I think will be easier for everybody to do that.
No, that's cool. And also, you might even find, like, down the line, you'll do a retreat with one person and they might come back, and then obviously it's changed a bit, and like you've got different people there. And it kind of just like grow from like people knowing people, or people passing on the word about it. And I just love that. That's really, really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think that it could definitely grow in that way. And I like organic growth. I'm not going to be advertising this retreat in many like traditional marketing ways. Like it's really who feels called to it and who needs that space. And I'm
Mhm.
going to definitely cater the retreat to the people who sign up for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I bet there's a lot of people that are like, I suppose, following you in response to like the work that you create, the artworks that you create. So I suppose because they've got an idea as to how you live and things, I bet they are thinking, oh yeah, this will be a really sort of quite interesting sort of experience to be a part of because it might be so different to how they live their lives.
Probably. I mean, it's so normal to me now,
Hmm.
that when I do go out in the real world again, I am confronted with the idea that yeah, it's very different. So, I do hope that like it meets those expectations of being different, because I think that the polarity of this space and this way of living, that's really the catalyst for the change that I've experienced since being here.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, as we've been talking about community and the idea for your retreat, etc. In terms of the creative side, uh, for me, I've always followed you in terms of your. Do you call it weaving? What would you? What
I call it
is that?
weaving, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, I mean, essentially weaving. It's paper weaving, but
Hmm.
yes, I would call it Mhm.
Yeah. So, what kind of got you into that? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
That yeah, that was I don't even know. I was in such a dark place when I started making art. I was probably like 24, and I
Hmm.
had gotten married to someone who was pretty abusive, and so I escaped into my mind, and I just started making art. It sounds so weird, but
Yeah.
that's just how it worked. And I was reading a book at the time called The Obscene Bird of Night by Jose Donoso. And I in it, I mean, this will ruin the book for anyone who hasn't read it, and I do suggest everybody read it, but like
Spoilers.
in it yeah. And then the character weaves himself into a burlap sack. And I think that is what, when I look back on that time, that is what the where the weaving came from. So
Hmm.
I was just kind of like playing with photography and painting at the time and different like separately. And then I cut up a photo one day and wove it together just very primitively, and that was the catalyst for it all. And then I just got obsessed with the process and developed the process more, and yeah, that's how I got into weaving. And then thankfully Instagram was on in the world at the time. It just opened up at that time and just became a thing, and it was really a place for artists at the beginning. So I was putting my art on Instagram and people were responding to it, and that is how I became an artist. So I just kind of dove right in from there.
I love that. Yeah, I can't remember when I actually followed you on Instagram and vice versa, but it seems forever. But I've just been
Yes.
following the journey.
Yeah, probably at least 10 years, which is crazy.
Wow, really? That's mad. That's mad. Okay, so with your so with the weaving and things like that, it's kind of developed on a bit further over this last few weeks, hasn't it? So can you tell us a bit about the new merch line? I really love those bags. They're really cool that you've made, by the way,
Oh,
or
thank
that you've
you.
got. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the merch, I mean, people have been telling me to, and I've been trying to do something like that probably for the 10 years, because everybody is passive income and just being able to give things at a more affordable price. But I have been so stuck on the idea of creating every single piece of art that I put out into the world that I've been really like against the idea.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have a really great friend who is an amazing artist, and she also has her own clothing line, and she kind of encouraged me to use the service that she uses. And the technology for print on demand is just like so good these days that it doesn't cost me an arm and a leg, and you can do drop shipping. And I just think that's like so valuable to an artist who supports themselves and their own career, because the amount of money it costs to put out a line of clothing when you have to buy everything out front is outrageous. So
Mm.
that's been a big reason that I haven't done it. But being able to like put in orders and have them shipped on a per order basis completely changes the game for me. and the quality is really great. And they do have options with the company that I'm working with to fulfill everything in the US. So once I kind of get things rolling, I'll probably switch over to that, which will make me feel really good. And yeah, the quality is great. I'm really impressed with how things are coming out.
That's brill. No, brill. Well, it's been a pleasure to chat with you today. We've covered a lot in such a small amount of time. But my last question to you today: do you have any words of encouragement or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us off with today? And it literally could be anything. Doesn't even have to be creative.
My my message would just be like, whatever you're dreaming, the craziest dream, just go for it. Like, build a small list of things to do, but go for it because it'll take you on a different journey, but it's fulfilling to to dream big and to just maybe fail, but to go for it. It feels great.
No, honestly, and by taking that path, I suppose it takes you down unexpected sort of avenues, which obviously, of course, it has led you down to, and it seems like it's been so worth
Yeah.
it.
It has been, it has been.
It's been wonderful have you on today, Lala. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.